She was weeping, crying. She ran to Jatayu. She put his head in her hands and said, "You gave your life for me. There's no one more dear to me than you. And now look at you." Ravana grabbed her and took her away. Sometime later, Lord Ram came by that place, and he saw Jatayu laying there on the verge of death. And Jatayu told him what happened. Sri Ramchandra put Jatayu's head in his lap, embraced him with tears of love in the Lord's eyes. He told Jatayu, "The loss of my father, even the loss of Sita, does not hurt my heart as the loss of you. You've given your heart and soul for my Sita. There's no way I can repay you, but I can tell you this. On this very day, I give you the promise that you will return to the spiritual world where you will attain the ultimate perfection of liberation in my loving service." And in the Lord's embrace, Jatayu looked at his beautiful face, chanted his name, and gave up his life. A little later, Hanuman had the same mission as Jatayu, to help Sita. And we all know the story. He jumped over the Indian Ocean, even overcoming every possible obstacle. He came to the city of Lanka. He gave Sita Ram's message, his ring. He received Sita's message for Ram. He burned down the whole city, and then he came back to Ram. Today that place is a mountain called Malyavanta in Hampi. And when Ram heard about the great success of Hanuman, he embraced him. And with tears in his eyes, he said, "I have no way to repay you. All I have is myself." So who was successful? From material standards, Jatayu failed and Hanuman succeeded. But Samsiddhir Haritosha. In the eyes of the Lord, they were both absolutely equal. Because they lived with character, with integrity, with devotion, Sharanagati, in that spirit that Tulsi was teaching us of surrender, for the pleasure of the Lord, for the higher good of all. Unfortunately, in this world, people are so addicted to material gain and loss that we forget the very essence of what life is for. There can be no true fulfillment or happiness on a superficial level of just selfishness and egoism. The Bhagavad Gita and all the great scriptures of the world teach us how to go higher and deeper than that. I'd like to end with a simple story that I like to tell. My dear friend Vaisheshika Prabhu is the leader of the Krishna conscious movement in this area of the world. We go through a lot during the year, but we have, at least for me, we have one very special day where we go into redwood forests and just walk. And one year, as we were going through the Muir Woods, we came upon a group of tourists. So we were thinking, let's get away from them. But then we heard the forest ranger say she was going to tell the underground secret of the redwood forest. Now we're both from the 1960s. Now, I don't know if you know the sociological experience of those days, but we really like underground secrets. She explained how these are the tallest and biggest trees on planet Earth. And the roots do not grow very deep. Usually for a tree to really grow, you need deep roots. And then the explanation was given that this part of the world, some of these trees are hundreds or 1,000 years old. It's hilly, very loose soil. And over the centuries, there's been devastating earthquakes, massive storms and blizzards. How do the trees stand and just keep growing and growing and growing? It's a great lesson to humanity. Under the ground, the roots, they don't grow so deep, but they reach out. And as soon as two roots meet each other, they embrace. They intertwine and make a permanent knot. And in this way, every tree in the forest is directly or indirectly supporting every other tree on the level of the roots. Unity is their strength. The big, giant, 1,000-year-old trees with their huge roots allow themselves to be wrapped around by the very new little baby trees and give them their full support. They all help each other. And even through earthquakes and storms, they keep growing bigger and taller. The roots for humans means the heart. Means really we care about each other. As Tulsi was saying, love is based on unselfish service or seva. And when we connect to that love for Krishna within ourselves and we feel his love, we are so satisfied that we want to reach out. Whatever our particular background or vocation, unity is our strength. And there's a saying, if you lose your wealth, you lose nothing. If you lose your health, you lose something. If you lose your character, you lose everything. And what is character? It's our love for God and our genuine concern and care for each other. It's that care that's the only shortage in this world. And Tulsi was quoting from Gita, yad yad acharati strestas, that what leaders do, the common people, that's the direction they go. So we're very grateful and we're very proud that we have a leader like Tulsi. It's inconceivable to me. In the American Congress, one of the most popular people in Congress, not only one of the most popular, but during our dinner, not all of you were there, but we were told that the head of the Democratic Party and Republican Party were both at her marriage dancing together in kirtan. That's historical. Haridas Thakur must really be smiling. So we want to thank you, and we're really all with you. We really believe in hearing your words and knowing that you don't just speak them, but you mean them and you live them. We're grateful. We're with you. Thank you very much.
Yeah, any questions? Otherwise,
I have one question. Since you have been participated in the Iraq war, how does this transform you or help you? Because you're facing every day, like what Arjuna faced with right on the battlefield. What kind of lessons this gave you, and what you went through and how this helped you over? Because that's the foundation of this.
Personally, the teachings of Krishna to Arjuna are there, and I was confronted in a very real way with the opportunity to take refuge in those teachings, to recognize and understand in a very confrontational way the temporary nature of these bodies and the eternality of our soul, understanding our true identity, and I served in a medical unit during that first deployment to Iraq, and on a daily basis really saw firsthand that the horrific and most terrible aspects of war and the very high human cost. One of my daily responsibilities, one of my jobs every day was to go through a list of all of the casualties and injuries that had occurred the day before in the entire country of Iraq. And I went through this list name by name, looking for any of the soldiers from our unit from Hawaii. There were about 3,000, close to 3,000 of us who were on that deployment, spread into different parts of the country. My unit, we were right in the middle of the Sunni Triangle, which was it was a hot fighting time that year, the year 2005. And unfortunately, we had many casualties, and I lost too many of my brothers in combat during that deployment. So, in a very personal way, I was and continue to be grateful for to have the Bhagavad Gita with me, to have Krishna with me, to know in times of sadness and in times of loss, to have that, to draw strength and courage from Krishna's teachings to us in a very real way, in a very applicable way. But that's an experience that I wouldn't wish on anyone, and it's not an experience, frankly, that many people relate to. But just as real as just as real for me there is the reality that we face in our lives, and I'm sure many of us here have gone through experiences in our own lives where we've unexpectedly lost a loved one, or have gone through some kind of great challenge, and understanding that Krishna is there for us, not only in those challenging times, but all the time. And that the more we turn to Him, the more we open our hearts to Him, the more we can see the truth in our own lives, and the more that we can be inspired to live our lives serving Him and serving others. Obviously, my experiences there and serving there in the Middle East were also very eye-opening and insightful, and had a great influence on my work and my politics, and served as a great motivator for me to see how I could take the lessons that I had learned there and to try to bring them back to the body that makes the decisions about our foreign policy and our military and how and where our men and women are sent into harm's way. Going back to that underlying message of serving our family, serving others, taking care of them. Thank you.
I'm of the great hope that part of the future is when the connection is made between spirituality in general and the environment. There seems to be a big disconnect on that issue now. Could you kind of speak to your own realizations about that and how you see it unfolding?
Yeah, it's an opportune time to talk about this, as we've heard the Pope talk about this over the last few days. That, you know, his message really was a message of spirituality that can and should be applied. And as much as we care for others, as much as we care for those in poverty, as much as we care for our youth, our families, our children, just as much we should care for our home. And this is, you know, this was kind of the issue that got me interested in the world of politics, to see how I could try to help affect change in that area in a greater way. You know, it's unfortunately, as I hear a lot of political leaders who don't get the connection of whatever your religious faith or belief, that caring, you know, loving God and loving others also goes hand in hand with caring for our home and the land and the water that we've been blessed with. Oftentimes it turns into a politically calculated conversation, and it goes away from the basic spiritual tenets and principles that are taught to us in every major scripture, from every religious practice or faith. So as I go and work with people who are, you know, dedicated their lives to preserving and protecting our environment, it's what I often do, is just break it down to the basics, get the politics out of it, you know, get the controversy out of it, and just break it down to something that people can relate to. You know, do you want your children to be raised in a place where they can breathe clean air, where they can drink clean water, and they can have beautiful places like this that they can go? Coming from Hawaii, it's a very easy argument to make. It's one that's cultural for us, it's economic, but it goes to something that in a very personal and individual way that you can appreciate once you start to peel away all of the other layers of complication that get in the way of people's being able to see the truth.
I can just say a few quick words. First, thank you very much, Sushant and Namrata, for hosting us. Thank you so much. Radhanath, Swami, thank you very much for gracing us with your presence. I just wanted to read a few remarks that a gentleman who wanted to be here very badly today wanted me to read on his behalf. He's one of the organizers of the Modi event tomorrow. He is on the organizing committee, so he was at a luncheon. He wasn't able to attend. So many of you might know him, Dr. Mihir Megani. I'll just read a quick statement from him about Tulsi. The Hindu American Political Action Committee has given Congresswoman Tulsi Gabbard a perfect score, as she has consistently stood by the Hindu American community on every major domestic and international issue. She has not shied away from her Hindu faith and identity, has attended many events in the Hindu American community, has met Hindu leaders outside the US and India to share thoughts about problems worldwide, and has inspired many Hindu Americans to be proud of their identity. Tulsi was the first US elected official to congratulate Prime Minister Modi upon his election last year. When India's new Prime Minister, Narendra Modi, visited America last year, the Prime Minister and Congresswoman met and found they had a great deal in common, including their shared belief that the potential for America and India to collaborate in ways that will benefit the entire world is enormous. As a result of that meeting and the warm rapport that they developed, Prime Minister Modi invited Tulsi to visit his country, an invitation Tulsi accepted in December while Congress was in recess. While in India, Tulsi met with Prime Minister Modi again, focusing on topics of mutual interest to America and India. She developed relations with many of India's leaders in government, the military, and the private sector, and spoke at several venues, including the prestigious India Ideas Conclave. She visited 7 major cities in India, put in motion the creation of a sister-state relationship between Hawaii and Goa, and toured several sites of spiritual and cultural significance, including the Gandhi Ashram in Ahmedabad. Tulsi questioned the hidden agenda at a biased congressional hearing on India and spoke against Resolution 417, a terrible anti-India bill that would have damaged India-US relations. She has spoken out about the plight of Bangladesh's Hindu minority at hearings on Bangladesh and has introduced HRES 396 to protect Hindus there. She also supported the community in getting anti-Hindu hate crimes tracked by the FBI. Tulsi is currently the only Hindu American ever in the US Congress. It is important that we support Tulsi as she seeks to strengthen her position toward higher office. Thanks, Mihir Magani, Board Member, Hindu American Political Action Committee. We're going to be having to leave here in about five or so minutes, but want to thank you all again. I'm a close friend of Tulsi's. I've known her since she was a young child. I'm sort of her uncle. I'm here for a little while. I have my cards if anyone wants to stay in touch with us, and your support is greatly appreciated. Thank you again, all. We look forward to seeing you.
Would you like to say something?
Thank you.
I'd like to thank.
Thank you, Sushant and Namrata, for your gracious hospitality. And my deep gratitude to each and every one of you for giving your precious time to be with us today.
I'd like to thank everyone for taking their time and coming all the way. It's a very busy weekend, and especially Tulsi, although she has so many appointments, she took time and come here. You're truly inspirational for all the youth community in all over America and worldwide. Thank you very much for taking time.
We have another brunch tomorrow at 10 if anyone wants to come again.
Yeah.
So
So
they will have the
10
details.
o'clock, 10 to 12, there's a brunch in Sunnyvale, so we'll send you the information.
Everyone is welcome.
Just say where it is from. Swagat Hotel, yeah, yes. Okay, so I think we'll just break here and please go ahead, take some snacks. If you're not